You look extremely statesmanlike, Lewis.
Hello, Roy.
He, above the rest, in shape and gesture, proudly eminent, stood like a tower.
See, his mulberry tree seems to have survived the frost.
Just so. Nothing but mulberry jam in college for another decade. What's the matter?
Nothing.
Why are you so unhappy?
You're imagining things.
Not when I failed to make you laugh twice.
Now, what's this I hear about you baiting some distinguished visitor in the hall the other night?
Oh, no, you don't. That's the way you protect yourself. You mustn't. You need to talk.
It's Sheila. Well, I've been desperately in love with her for 10 years now. And married to her for 4 of them. Of course, I knew she was unstable. From the very beginning, she's never pretended to love me.
You still love her?
And it's worse than anything I could have imagined.
Just so.
But I can't leave her now. She needs me to go on looking after her.
And you need to do it.
Yes. Well, that's why I gave up the bar. Well, not entirely for her. I needed a rest, too, so I divided my time between being a consultant in London and an academic lawyer here. Doesn't really work for anyone.
You mustn't lose too much.
Well, one has to go on, that's all.
Just so. Life's very unfair. Come on, I'll give you some tea. The famous mulberry jam.
Rosalind.
I couldn't stand London another minute without you. Oh, hello, Lewis.
Hello.
Have some tea.
Oh, absolutely not. I'm bantling.
So, Despard Smith's worst fears are confirmed.
Who on earth is Despard Smith?
Our worthy cleric.
He thinks that Roy has women in his rooms.
Who?
You fool.
Oh, well, why not?
Unseemly conduct from a research scholar. Particularly one who aspires to being a fellow.
Oh, yes. How's that going?
Don't ask me. I'm only the candidate.
I think it's high time it was settled.
I agree. There are disadvantages in being the master's blue-eyed boy.
For one thing, you inherit the master's enemies.
He does rather invite them with that tongue of his. Do you know, at the last college meeting, he asked Francis Getcliffe, the physicist, what rude mechanical are we asked to consider now?
I think that's rather funny.
So do I, but the point is, the scientist didn't. And if we're going to get Roy elected...
Oh, who cares?
You do.
Do I?
You know you do. What I'm not sure about is why.
Oh, because he wants to feel that he can earn a living. Sons of rich men always do.
So, now you know.
The fact is, all this shilly-shallying about his wretched fellowship is making Roy more than usually impossible to live with. Never mind. You can forget your thwarted ambitions and take me out to dinner tonight.
No, I'm afraid I can't, you know. I'm dining at the lodge.
I always thought that cat, Joan Royce, had her claws into you.
Takes one to know another.
I hope you have a perfectly poisonous dinner.
Calvert's speciality is Manichaeism. I don't think I know it.
It's one of the earlier Christian heresies. It saw the whole of creation as a battle of the light against the dark. Man's spirit being part of the light, and his flesh of the dark.
It is a most subtle and complex representation of sexual guilt.
Just so.
Hardly a subject for the dinner table, I'd have thought.
No, on the contrary, it would have appealed chiefly to those with time to think. More precisely, the comfortable, leisured class of a dying society. A class with little to do except pursue its sensual pleasures and be tormented by the guilt which they induce.
Mr. Elliot was putting forward an interesting point before dinner. He has a high opinion of Kirkwood's profundity.
Are you sure, my dear?
Well, it's not impossible, Master.
Untenable, I would have thought.
I'd hope so. I don't think I know the fellow.
He's a philosopher, Uncle Hugh.
Ah, that accounts for it.
Well, it was Mr. Elliot that was singing his praises.
As a matter of fact, I was talking about Kierkegaard, Lady Muriel.
Kierkegaard, of course, Kierkegaard.
You really are becoming an intellectual Mrs. Malaprop, Mother.
Oh, I'd forgotten.
Yes, Doris?
Tom's girl's engaged. Who's the man? His name's Houston Ecker.
I'm afraid I don't know who he is, either.
Well, apparently he's quite brilliant. He's in the Foreign Office. first secretary at that place that looks after the post. That place in Switzerland. You know.
Bern?
Bern.
How old is he?
About 40, I should say.
If he's only first secretary at 40, I would have said he was unlikely to go far.
I shouldn't have said that the Foreign Office these days was particularly distinguished, anyhow.
Of course, someone's obliged to do these things.
Someone's obliged to look after the drains and such.
Should you have said, Lord Boscastle, that the Foreign Office was becoming slightly common?
Perhaps that would be going rather far. I've actually known one or two people who went in.
Yeah, but you would never have gone in yourself.
No. And I hope my boy won't either.
Why not?
If he feels obliged to take up a career, I hope that he'll choose something more out of the ordinary.
It isn't because you don't want him to get into low company.
Mr. Calvert, have you been inside an embassy?
Only once, Lady Boscastle.
I think I must take you to some more. You'll find the people in them not uncivilized. I'm a little surprised you didn't know that, Mr. Calvert.
Good night, Lady Boscastle. And thank you for my instructive evening. Good night, Lady Muriel.
Good night, dear.
Lovely dinner. Thank you very much indeed.
Pleasure. He was a little naughty with you at dinner, Hugh. But you must admit, he has style.
Young men ought to get up to monkey tricks. One grows old soon enough. Yes, he's a very agreeable young man.
He's got everything in front of him. He's going to be one of the great Orientalists of the day.
So handsome, too.
His nose is much too long.
Anyone would think you didn't like him.
I can never get him to take me seriously.
One thing is certain. We must get him elected as a fellow.
I'd have thought you'd jump at him.
No society of men is fond of brilliance.
You're talking to a member of the House of Lords.
We needs must choose the dullest when we see it for fear of being shown up ourselves. However, this time, I hope my colleagues agree with me without undue pressure. Between ourselves, Elliot, when I reflect on the modest accomplishments of some of our colleagues, I think perhaps even undue pressure might not be out of place.
I see the worthy Brown has started lobbying for R.C.E. Calvert.
What makes you say that?
When he notifies us that his guest is the leading authority in Calvert's field, it's a deduction which shouldn't be beyond even your powers of reasoning.
At times, Besser, when you make me feel like the owl of the remove.
There are times, my dear senior tutor, when that is precisely the impression I wish to convey.
He'll turn the place into a bear garden.
I'm doubtful whether the college can really afford another fellow.
Do we really need another specialist in the Master's arcane field? Surely the point is that Calvert is extraordinarily good.
So we're told. But ordinary mortals know nothing about his subject.
How can you compare him with a lad like Luke, who's competing against the ablest physicists in the world?
I can't be satisfied that it's in the man's own best interests to be elected here. I am by no means happy about Calvert's influence on the undergraduates if we were to take the very serious risk of electing him to our society.
I believe he'd be like a breath of fresh air.
I don't care what he's like, within reason.
I wouldn't dream of voting against him on personal grounds. If he's good enough, we ought to take him. But I want that proved.
Mr. President, I should like to introduce my guest, Sir Ulstone Lyle.
How do you do? I'm Despard Smith. You're here to sing young Calvert's praises, I gather.
I must begin by covering myself, Mr. President. I have a certain partiality for those studies with which I've been associated for longer than I sometimes care to think. But if you'll allow for that partiality, I may be able to assist you. I think I can say, with a full sense of responsibility, that among the younger workers, Mr. Calvert is the chief hope that our studies now possess.
Drink?
Not for me.
You don't mind if...
No.
Where have you been?
In hall.
Oh.
We were talking about you.
You should have better things to do.
I told you, Alston Lyle was coming down.
He's a dreadful man.
He's pretty pompous, but he did you proud.
You've never had a work at being accepted, have you?
I suppose not.
Well, I don't intend to. If I can't get elected on my own merits, I don't want strings pulled by an establishment toady like him.
Oh.
I don't suppose he's known a moment's doubt in 70 slimy years. Even when he pinched Erzberger's work.
Don't you think you've had enough?
Probably.
I wish I could help.
So do I.
Where the hell is it?
Something original. I can't sleep. What's the use of going to bed if you can't sleep? And if you do, you only dream. Dreams are horrible.
I need some rest.
Yes.
Have you never longed to believe in God?
Not in any sense that would mean anything to you.
Amazing. You feel a good deal, don't you? Not just love. That's the only feeling most of our colleagues are prepared to allow. They're hollow. You're not. Yet you don't long to believe. I've prayed to be able to. It's no good. One can't do it to order. Either it comes or it doesn't. Take the master. He's not a very good scholar, you know, but he is extremely clever. And after reading about all the religions in the world, he believes just as he did when he was a child. Listen, Lewis. I could swallow all the rest. The virgin birth, transubstantiation even, if only I could believe in God. And I can't begin to. I can't even get as far as, help thou mine unbelief. The nearest I've got to it is this. It's happened twice, each time on a night I couldn't sleep. It's completely clear and terrible. I've been absolutely convinced that God and his world exist, and everyone can enter and find his rest. Everyone except me. I'm alone and apart and infinitesimally small. I can't come near. Ever. The cattle are lowing, the baby awakes, but little Lord Jesus, no crying he makes. I love thee, Lord Jesus, look down from the sky and stay by my bedside till morning is nigh.
What on earth are you doing?
Brightening things up, Master. I need to have bright things about me, otherwise I might get depressed.
Aesthetically, it might be preferable. However, I'm here to carry you off to the British Academy, Roy.
Why?
There's a symposium in honor of old Lyle.
Now I am depressed.
It's his 70th birthday.
He always was a dreadful man, and he hasn't improved with the years.
I'm inclined to agree. But he is battling mightily in the matter of your fellowship.
I never asked him to.
I still think you should put in an appearance.
If you say so, Master.
And like everyone in this field,
I am bound to make two acknowledgements. First, to the pioneer work done over 40 years ago in the original articles by Lyell and Erzberger, and second, to the great leap forward taken alone by the man we are here to honor today, Sir Alston Lyell.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me, may I ask a question?
Yes, of course. Mr.
Calvert.
Ah, yes, Mr. Calvert.
Having listened to this conspectus of Asian social history, how much credit for the present position would be given to the late Dr. Erzberger?
He deserved every credit for his share in the original articles. I had hoped to make that clear.
And so you did. You also said that the great leap forward was taken alone by Sir Alston Lyell.
Correct.
How much of that is thanks to Dr. Erzberger?
Perhaps I could help Mr. Calvert, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Sir Alston.
I am grateful to my young... I almost said protégé. To my young friend, Mr. Calvert. It is altogether appropriate on this occasion, when you have praised me beyond my deserts, that my old helper should not be forgotten. Many of you will remember, though it was long before Mr. Calvert's day, that poor Erzberger was cut off in his prime. It was a tragedy, for it could be said of him, as Newton said of Coates, that if he had lived, we should have learned something.
Just so. In fact, he published nothing but the articles he wrote with you.
I'm afraid that is the fact.
What was he working on before he died?
Alas, we have no trace.
Wasn't he working on the subject of your own book?
There was no trace, I say.
Were none of his manuscripts worth publishing posthumously?
We could find no manuscripts after he died.
You could find no results of years of work?
He left nothing behind him.
Remarkable.
I regard your questions as unnecessary, sir, and your imputation offensive.
But what imputation is that, Sir Alston?
Why, that I passed off Erzberger's later work as my own.
I don't think this is very profitable.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I must apologize for having taken the time of the meeting.
Gentlemen, can we get back to it?
What have you been doing with yourself?
Trying to mend your fences, mostly.
Oh, that. I haven't enjoyed myself so much for months. All right, it was irresponsible, but at least I broke out. Would you rather I stayed steeped in gloom for the rest of my life?
No, of course not.
And what are you so blasted solemn about? You think I'll swing back?
I'm afraid you may.
I may. In fact, I'm certain I shall. Meanwhile, don't begrudge me the occasional high.
What are you doing for Christmas?
But Rosalind's decided it's time for me to be inspected by her parents.
She'll marry you yet.
What are your plans?
Well, she'll just contrive to escape her parents by announcing you want to spend Christmas à deux.
I feel sorry for you, but she's the one I pity. You're tough, you've got resources, you're interested in life. I don't see what she has to hope for. And I know how that feels.
Not tonight.
Not tonight, but yesterday and probably tomorrow.
Come on. You all right?
Fine, how are you?
Sore. How much for Leicester's answer to Fred Astaire?
Nonsense, until you tripped, you're doing wonderfully.
Those last words. You don't wish we were with your parents, then?
Oh, never in a million years.
I'm glad. I'm also quite glad they can't see us now.
Presents.
Right. Here you are.
Ooh, you go first.
Right.
Do you like it?
Yes. Well, what is it?
Look inside.
I'm no wiser.
It's a collector's item.
Ah,
Duke of Wellington had one. It's a genuine article.
thank you very much.
I'll get the bottles filled if you like it.
Wonderful. Your turn.
Paper's lovely. The case is beautiful too. What's inside?
Guess.
I give up. Pearls for tears.
Talk about kicking a gift horse in the teeth.
It's an adage.
Trust you to trot it out.
It's ridiculous trying to be angry in that hat.
It's your idea we should spend Christmas alone together.
I thought you were enjoying it.
We were. What happened? You give me the sort of junk you like to collect, and I give you a not inexpensive present.
I think now I'm supposed to be grateful for how much it cost.
Tell me what it cost! With my usual futile attempt to try to express the fact that I love you! What do you say? You say pearls for tears. I sometimes wonder why I bother.
Don't you think I do?
Oh, yes, that's right. Now turn the situation inside out so I have to start feeling sorry for you.
I never asked you to love me. I never wanted you to.
You take and take, don't you? Can't you ever give? Even a little? I don't mean things!
I can't give you what you want. I never could. I've told you.
You don't even try anymore!
Oh, if only you knew.
Accepted the boss castle's invitation.
Because you wanted me to.
I didn't want you to back out at the 11th hour.
I just can't face it.
You didn't even think of another living soul.
Well, you're free to go.
Yes. I'm like a perfect fool. The man with the invisible wife.
What's all that got to do with this?
I had it back.
My dear, if that's what you want. Louis.
Whatever you do, don't say you're sorry.
Do you know these
Where's Elliot and Mr. Roy Calvert?
Are they looking after you all right down at the pub?
Splendidly, sir.
Good.
I
Yes, very well.
don't deem it too uncivilized not being able to put you up here.
Not at all.
The point is, you see, the place gets full of relations, from cellar to attics. Every season of goodwill.
I hope you know them all.
Why do you always tease my uncle? Instead of getting him to talk about something worthwhile.
Too stupid.
Really?
He's not stupid.
Of course he's not. I am.
You're impossible.
Found a manuscript I'd value your opinion on, Calvert.
It'd be a pleasure, sir.
Got me floored.
Rest of you are very welcome.
Oh, I say.
Good.
Hello? Thank you. But I shall stay here and scold Mr. Elliot a little. I gather your marriage is not an unqualified idyll.
No.
I'm sorry. But a mismatch, however painful, does not excuse a soft shirt with evening clothes. Explain yourself.
It's much more comfortable than a boiled shirt.
The chief aim of civilized society is not comfort, as you know very well. You have qualities that can take you anywhere you choose to go.
I wouldn't go so far as to say that.
Now, I know about these things. I've spent my life among successful men. You can compete with them, but you must conform a little more.
I keep my thoughts pretty much to myself.
Oh, no one minds what a man of distinction thinks. It's appearances that matter. Your friend Roy, for instance, if he tried, he couldn't do anything untravelled. You should go to his tailor. You must go to his barber. Your English accent will pass, but your French is deplorable. And you need some different hats. Yes, Preston?
The landlord of the Boscastle Arms is on the telephone, my lady.
What on earth for?
It seems he has received a telegram addressed to Mr. Calvert.
I see. No reply. Thank you for letting me know.
Bad news.
That was Rosalind, blast her. She's coming down here. Staying at the Boscastle Arms, I trust.
No, that would really put the cat among the pigeons. She's booked herself into the Imperial at Truro, which is quite close enough to make life thoroughly uncomfortable.
She's a Clytemnestra.
I think you mean Messalina, Muriel.
She's a Messalina.
Honestly, Mother.
It's no laughing matter. Of course, she's not a lady. She's not even gently bred.
No lady could do what that adventuress is doing.
Her behaviour is certainly unbecoming. But haven't you and I known cases?
They were not the same. Were a lady to throw herself at poor Roy's head, she would do it in a different way.
Let me give you some coffee.
Who's going to give me a game of bridge?
No one.
What?
Until we've settled our arrangements for the hunt ball.
Oh, good Lord.
We have at last succeeded in persuading Hugh to take a table.
Oh, what fun.
Got a dreadful crowd. Apart from the farmers.
It's taken some time, as you may imagine. It's to be on New Year's Eve. I'm counting on you two to make up our table. You will come, Louis?
I should love to. As you know, a friend of mine is arriving.
I recall.
I think I need to look after her. I'm so sorry. I should like to have seen the New Year in with you all.
Muriel, I suppose you know who these people are?
Certainly not.
I might have known.
One has to admire his nerve.
You didn't give him much choice but to spit in your eyes.
Proud to say, through clenched teeth, she's got style.
Damn fine-looking woman. We better get them over here, Helen.
Why did you bring me here?
I object to being dictated to.
You don't think any the worse of me for descending on you?
No, but I don't think any the worse of their ladyships for being spiteful about it. Or Joan, for that matter, who would cheerfully scratch your eyes out if she could. Hello, old boy. Have a drink.
I say.
Thanks.
Excuse me.
Louis.
Rosalind. Happy New Year.
Good God, you've actually got off the fence for once.
Not in your terms. I'm a messenger.
With an olive branch, I trust.
I'd say it was from Lady Boscastle's point of view. Whether it would be from yours.
Beautifully judged. They wish us a happy new year.
Is that all?
No, we're also summoned to take tea on January the 3rd.
Would you care for some tea?
Ah.
Thank you.
I'm afraid I'm not much good at tea. I expect you are, aren't you? Fine-looking woman like you.
Have some strawberry jam from our own strawberries.
We grow a few little things of our own here, you know.
Do you, Lord Boscastle?
Yes, have done ever since the new house was built.
Where's that?
Where's what?
The new house.
Oh, you're in it?
Yes.
Yeah. 1742, that's all. The original house was down in the valley. Now, why do you suppose that was?
Could it have been because of the water supply?
Full marks. Clever girl.
That young woman is having a succès foolish.
She's far from stupid.
Of course, she means to show everyone she's a suitable mate for Roy.
Especially Roy.
I shall be surprised if she captures him.
So shall I.
I shall also be surprised if my niece Joan does.
What's this? Come in. Joan.
You didn't seem quite yourself at dinner. I had to see what was the matter.
Well, that's very kind of you, Joan, but I'm fine.
Nonsense.
Just so.
One can't help overhearing things at the lodge. Your fellowship's on the agenda for the next college meeting.
No, I am worried.
You're making fun of me again.
Never let it be said, Joan.
You don't think I like throwing myself at you, do you?
No.
There's something I need to know. It's being said that you and Rosalind are to be engaged.
By whom?
Rosalind,
Well, then it must be true.
don't you want it to be? I'm trying to imagine why you're in such a stew.
You've been reading too many romantic novels.
I'm not quite such a child as you seem to think I am.
No?
I think you know how highly I regard you. I'm not now speaking academically. My wife feels the same way. In fact, we have for some time entertained the hope that you and our daughter... Oh, you mustn't let that influence you. I don't know what your understanding is with Rosalind, and it would be impertinent of me to inquire. But if you ever think of getting married, I do beg you to consider no one else's feelings but your own. There's one time in one's life when one must be absolutely selfish. Anything else is a recipe for disaster for both parties. I don't suppose she or my wife would thank me for it, but I'm saying all this for Joan's sake as much as for yours.
I see young Calvert's latest papers had a lukewarm press.
I think he played one of his merry pranks on the reviewer.
It
is conceivable that the master may have overrated his protégé.
I understand his work is much admired in Germany.
Indeed. One can't help but feel that scholarship, like charity, should begin at home.
Surely scholarship's international.
Speaking as a scientist, I should hope so.
Particularly in view of the purblind establishment we have here.
It's extraordinary that we can't even discuss Calvert without turning the place into a bear garden.
Your boy Dick has just set his bar exam, I hear.
It's a necessary step towards becoming a barrister.
How did he do?
My dear Brown, who can tell? He thinks he has done reasonably well, but his judgment is entirely worthless. I should be relieved if the examiners let him through.
They'll let him through.
I don't know what will happen to him if they don't. Dick's a stupid child. He's a very nice person. And if they give him a chance now, I honestly believe that in 10 years' time he may surprise you all.
Gentlemen, the king.
The king.
The king.
What's this about your going to Berlin University?
I've applied to do 3 months' research there in the long bag.
You never told me.
There's nothing to tell. It's a non-event until I know if I'm accepted.
I never know where I stand with you. I want something to hold on to. I want to be sure I mean something to you.
How can I convince you?
Marry me?
Apart from that.
Makes you think I'm not good enough for you.
I never said that.
Everyone else will. Not that I care. After all, it's you that's turning me out.
That's not true.
Everybody thinks we're engaged.
Only because you've been putting it about.
I have got to get married sometime. I can't wait forever. And somebody rather nice wants to marry me.
Well, if that's what you want, you better marry him.
I don't think I could bear it.
I shouldn't do it in that case.
You don't care.
No, frankly, I don't. Well, I have to accept some responsibility for the fact that you've blown up our relationship into an embarrassment and a bore. But when it actually gets in the way of my work, you're right. I don't care.
Heartless and horrible. You're the most selfish person I have ever met.
You're well out of it then, aren't you?
That's right. Twist my words.
Oh, for pity's sake.
Will you marry me?
No.
Is that absolutely your last word?
I'm afraid so.
Very well, then. I'm afraid you'll just have to accept the consequences.
Ah, there you are.
Evidently. What may I do for you, my dear Elliot?
I telephoned for the results.
Dick's results?
They'll be published tomorrow, but I wanted to catch you before you went into hall.
Well?
They're not good.
Has he absolutely failed?
I'm afraid so.
Absolutely failed.
You should have done better. Must have had nerves.
Thank you. I know the excuses. Could I crave a drink from you before I face my colleagues?
Of course.
Thank you. This is good of you.
God almighty. Huh? Oh, sorry.
Not at all. Elliot has been kind enough to give me some Dutch courage to face our colleagues.
His son's had some bad luck.
Not to put too fine a point on it. My boy Dick's just failed his bar exams. Absolutely failed.
Oh, I'm dreadfully sorry.
That's nice of you.
Yes, I'm sorry what you'll have to go through.
Yes, I'm not looking forward to hall.
You know, when you're unhappy, it's awful to be watched. It's intolerable to have people talking about you.
I don't care what they say if they just leave me alone.
Oh, none of us is capable of that much decency.
It's not as if I don't know what they'll feel. Oh, they'll hide it behind sympathetic smiles, but they'll feel I've been taken down a peg or two and not before time. Served me right for having been rude and arrogant.
They don't matter. None of us matters.
There's something in what they'll say, young man.
Of course there is. There's something in most things they say about anyone. They say I'm a waster and seduce women. Something in that, too. Do you want to know how much there is in it? We're both miserable. It may relieve you just a bit. Do you want to know how many loving invitations I've coaxed for myself out of women connected with this college? Hmm? Here, I'll give you a list.
Don't trouble yourself, Calvert. It's no concern of mine.
Oh, that's why I shall do it. Go away, Lewis. This has nothing to do with you. This is only for Winslow and me. There. Keep that to remind you that people don't matter.
This is distressing.
He'll calm down soon.
I'm very ignorant of these matters. Should you say that Calvert was seriously unstable?
He's not very fit. He's been overworking for some years. And on his own, too. You know what a strain that can be.
That's all very well. But do you suppose he'd be elected a fellow if I were to lay this before the college meeting?
You can't do that.
Why not?
He's been under stress for some time, but your disappointment pushed him over the edge. He lost control. Do you think he would have done it if he hadn't seen that you were unhappy, that others would be pleased at your expense? Who else has any feeling for you?
Doesn't matter to me, one way or the other.
Who else has any feeling for Dick? You know that Calvert was upset about him. Who else cares about your son?
What shall I do with this? Perhaps you better have it.
I know what you think about my nature, about the way I'm made.
Then you know more than I do.
Now, that's what you always say when you want someone to think that you're nice and kind and a bit of an old buffer. It's quite untrue. You mustn't do it now. You think I got my sentence, don't you? I may get time off for good conduct, but I can't get out altogether. I can never change. I'm condemned to be myself. Isn't that what you believe? Please tell me.
I don't think you can escape, well, at least for long, seeing the sadness of the human condition more clearly than anyone I know.
Just so. Oh, it's too stark for me. I won't believe it. I can't believe it. Oh, Louis. I've been through misery I wasn't inflict on a living soul. If you're right, I've been through that quite pointlessly.
A few unusual men seem to be cursed with your sort of clear-sighted despair.
Without reason, according to you.
Well, no reason we can understand yet, at any rate.
I can't accept a joke like that. It would be like living in a prison, governed by an imbecile. There's something else. It may weaken me to know what you're thinking. Sooner than be weakened, I should have to lose everything else. Even you. I shan't lose you. You won't get rid of me. I've never felt what intimacy means except with you.
It's the same with me.
Just so. I wouldn't alter anything if I could help it. But there might come a time when I get out of your sight. There may come a time when I need to keep things from you.
Has that time come?
Yes.
Well, gentlemen, the senior fellow is indisposed and Pilbrow is cavorting about the Balkans, as usual. The rest of us have appointed today for the election of a fellow. I've told the college, no doubt at excessive length, that I believe Mr. R.C.E. Calvert is our strongest candidate for years past. I would have thought the question had been sufficiently aired for us to vote straight away.
If you please, Master.
Precipitate.
You wish for a discussion, Mercer?
Signores priores?
Mr. Despard Smith.
I can't be satisfied that the candidate is suited to collegiate life.
He was extremely popular as an undergraduate.
That, if anything, increases my misgivings.
I'm still not quite clear what they are.
Can any of his sponsors assure me that Mr. Calvert will do his fair share of the bread and butter work?
He's a research fellow. You don't expect a nightingale to crack nuts,
don't you? Many of us have had to sacrifice our own interests for the college. I fail to see why this young man should be an exception. No, I think he would have a lamentable effect on the undergraduates. He still has women to visit him in his rooms.
Oh, come.
Where's the harm in that? It proves he's not a pederast.
We're not here to judge the man's morals.
I do not condemn Mr. Calvert. I merely question whether his character has developed sufficiently to come up to the standard we are bound to require.
He is inclined to play the giddy goat.
I find him charming and modest.
At any rate, he's not prosaic.
A touch conceited and standoffish, perhaps.
If I may...
I know you're opposed.
With respect, Master, I recognize the appeal of esoteric subjects. I merely question the wisdom of electing another specialist in them when the college doesn't have an engineering fellow.
We have no engineering candidates, so far as I'm aware.
I was making a general point, Master. However, I should like Dr. Getliff to ventilate the question of Luke.
Very well. Luke's a scholar. Disadvantaged background. He took 2 high firsts in Tripos and began research at the Cavendish 2 years ago. He's just finished his initial program, and he said the last word on the subject.
Isn't that the trouble with all you scientists, Dr. Getliff? You're always saying the last word. You never seem to say the first.
I'm bound to say, Master, that I'm very interested in Luke's candidature. I fancy others are.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear.
If we didn't believe in the overwhelming claims of Mr. Calvert, we would be voting for the other young man today.
Well, I shall certainly do so next year.
I don't know how far Getliff wishes to press us this afternoon.
I take the strongest exception, Master, to any suggestion that Luke's work is not original. It's as original as can be, and I shall propose him at the first opportunity.
I withdraw completely. Don't take it amiss.
For the present, I'm satisfied that Calvert has done distinguished work and looks like going on with it. I'm ready to vote for him this afternoon.
I'm no longer the most junior fellow.
If I believed in him, now is when I'd ask God to help me.
I thought it was the one thing in the world you really wanted.
It was. And how many of us are cursed with getting that?
Autoritati mihi commissar. Metto te in scolarum socium, huius collegii expuntatione, Domini Margaretti, in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen.
Now I really believe that fate can't touch you.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.